German pilots initially mocked the bulky American fighter, which they nicknamed the Barrel during World War II. However, they would soon learn to fear its devastating firepower. Equipped with 850 caliber machine guns and a nearly indestructible airframe. The P-47 was known for its nicknames like the Jug and Tank Buster, and these names were not given without reason. The true story behind the P-47, however, was much darker. Its gruesome effectiveness in combat made it one of the most feared aircraft in the German military. To understand how the P-47 was created, we need to go back to 1939. The United States Army Air Corps faced a significant problem. Combat reports from Europe indicated that American fighter designs were falling behind the advanced German Messerschmitt Bf-109s and Focke-Wulf FW-190s. A better aircraft was needed urgently. The request went to Republic Aviation, where chief designer Alexander Kartveli, a Georgian immigrant, proposed a lightweight fighter powered by an Allison V-1710 engine with just 2 machine guns. The design was supposed to be small, nimble, and weigh around 4,600 kilograms. But by early 1940, combat reports revealed that what was actually needed wasn't a lightweight interceptor, but a heavily armed and well-protected fighter that could dominate at high altitudes. The Army Air Corps issued new specifications that included a speed of 400 mph at 25,000 feet, an armament of 6 or preferably 8 50 caliber machine guns, cockpit armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and a minimum fuel load of 315 gallons. These were not suggestions, but strict requirements. Kartveli went back to the drawing board and produced a design that no one expected. In June 1940, he submitted a completely redesigned fighter. Gone was the lightweight Allison engine, replaced by the massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp engine, an 18-cylinder radial engine producing over 2,000 horsepower. To make it effective at high altitude, Kartveli added a turbocharger system in the rear fuselage, adding weight and complexity. He also mounted 8 50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns, 4 in each wing. The prototype XP-47B first flew on May 6, 1941. Despite minor issues, it was impressive, fully loaded. The aircraft weighed around 10,000 tons, making it nearly twice as heavy as a Spitfire and significantly heavier than the P-51 Mustang. It was the largest single-engine fighter ever built by any nation during World War II. The Army Air Corps ordered it into production, and by March 1942, the first P-47Bs were delivered. The P-47 Thunderbolt was about to go to war, but American pilots first needed to learn how to fly this unconventional machine. On April 15, 1943, over occupied Belgium, Captain Werner Schroer of the German fighter wing saw American fighters approaching his formation and could hardly believe his eyes. He radioed his squadron, reporting that the Americans were flying barrels. Compared to the sleek German fighters, the P-47s appeared absurd. Their massive round engines, thick fuselages, and relatively short wings made them seem more like flying cargo containers than combat aircraft. German pilots, experienced and confident, had little respect for these new planes. They wondered what kind of threat these bulky machines could possibly pose. However, the P-47 was not designed for elegance, but for strength and firepower. Weighing around 10,000 kilograms and powered by a 2,000-plus horsepower engine, it could reach high altitudes where German engines struggled. While it couldn't match the German fighters in terms of turn rate or low-altitude climb, it was unmatched in other ways. The real power lay in its armament, the 8 50 caliber Browning machine guns, each with 425 rounds, gave the Thunderbolt a total of 3,400 rounds. When all 8 guns fired together, they could spray around 100 bullets per second into a target zone roughly 6 feet wide. American engineers fine-tuned the gun placement, ensuring that all the bullets converged at around 300 yards into a small lethal zone. Captain Francis Gabreski, a top ace, later said, "When the P-47's guns hit a target, the enemy didn't just fall, they disintegrated." On June 26, 1943, Lieutenant Robert Johnson, part of a 48-aircraft P-47 formation, was ambushed by 16 German FW-190s. Despite being heavily damaged by cannon fire, with his canopy smashed, instruments destroyed, and cockpit filled with smoke and flames, Johnson managed to regain control of his aircraft. He was trapped in the cockpit, unable to bail out, and the fire went out on its own. Despite being half-blinded by hydraulic fluid and weak from lack of oxygen, Johnson turned his crippled Thunderbolt towards the English Channel and began heading home. As he flew, he was attacked by German Ace Lieutenant Colonel Egon Mayer. Despite being hit repeatedly by cannon shells and machine gun rounds, Johnson's Thunderbolt kept flying. After a prolonged attack, Mayer, out of ammunition and seemingly in disbelief, saluted Johnson's survival and turned back. Johnson managed to fly his damaged P-47 back to base, where it was found that the plane had taken over 200 bullet holes and 21 hits from 20mm cannon shells. The Thunderbolt had survived the unimaginable. The Germans soon realized they were facing a different kind of enemy. By 1945, the United States had produced 15,783 P-47 Thunderbolts, making it the most produced American fighter. The sheer scale of production meant the Germans faced P-47s everywhere, whether in the air or on the ground. The Thunderbolt's devastating firepower was another reason why German forces hated it. The 850 caliber machine guns delivered up to 10 times more energy than standard infantry weapons. A burst from all 8 guns created a wall of lead, and the armor-piercing incendiary rounds could burn through aircraft, causing fuel tanks to explode and engines to disintegrate, killing pilots instantly. The P-47's durability was another factor that made it feared. The Pratt & Whitney radial engine was air-cooled, meaning it had no vulnerable radiator like the liquid-cooled German fighters. One hit to a German fighter's cooling system meant engine failure, but the P-47 could lose entire cylinders and still fly. There are documented cases of Thunderbolts returning to base with massive damage, yet still getting their pilots home safely. The heavily armored cockpit also protected pilots even when the aircraft took significant damage. While the P-47 was initially used as a high-altitude escort fighter, by 1943 it found its true calling as a ground attack aircraft. Major Glenn Duncan of the 353rd Fighter Group pioneered low-level strafing tactics, and after successful missions, the 9th Air Force adopted ground attack as a primary role for the P-47. The Thunderbolt's ability to carry up to 2,500 doses of bombs or rockets, in addition to its 8 machine guns, made it a devastating force against ground targets. From D-Day in 1944 until Germany's surrender in 1945, P-47 pilots destroyed thousands of railway cars, locomotives, armored vehicles, and trucks. The sound of the Thunderbolt's engines became a sound of terror for German ground forces. The aircraft was so effective in its ground attack role that it was used in urban combat support in 1944, where it was instrumental in the assault on Brest, a German-occupied coastal fortress. When a German general surrendered in September 1944, he didn't surrender to the Army commander, but to the Army Air Force's representative, acknowledging the power of Allied air support, especially the P-47. The P-47's legacy continued after World War II, serving in the Korean War and influencing the design of the A-10 Thunderbolt II, which was developed in the 1970s for the same ground attack role. The P-47 proved that overwhelming production, devastating firepower, and incredible durability could overwhelm even the most advanced enemy technology. By the end of the war, it had destroyed more enemy aircraft than any other Allied fighter, and it became a symbol of American air power's dominance over the German military.